Can you beat Kingdom Rush Origins without barracks? The barracks are basically a placeholder tower to stall enemies while the real towers do the damage. Most of the time I don't even upgrade them because they won't be doing much damage anyways. But what if I remove the good towers and force the barracks to do 100% of the damage? Is it still possible? No archers, druids, or wizards are allowed, but I can use reinforcements and heroes as they're also ground troops. Gems are overpowered, so they're banned, and that's pretty much it, so let's jump into level 1. Since I can only use tier 1 barracks, my only choice is to spam them and pray for the best. Thankfully, I unlocked the reinforcements, hero, and lightning spell to clear out the enemies. Even though it might look like mindless spamming, there is a slight bit of strategy for early levels. Enemies won't gang up on your soldiers for whatever reason, but thankfully our soldiers have no such moral compass. So if I place all of my soldiers in one spot, they can all attack enemies at once and deal a lot more damage than normal. This stops working with huge waves of enemies, but thankfully they aren't that mean in the first level, so I was able to cruise into a 3-star victory. The second level introduces tier 2 towers, which among some stat boosts give the soldiers a bow and arrow to shoot their enemies, which isn't vital right now, but comes in very clutch later. The level itself felt pretty similar to the last one, and there weren't any new enemies to worry about, so another quick 3-star leads us into a tricky level 3. It introduces 2 new enemies that are kind of terrifying, the hyena and the Parathon. The hyena sprints past soldiers and can't be engaged in combat, which sounds like the worst case scenario. Even though they can't be killed with a sword, they can be killed with arrows, and by upgrading the barracks to tier 2 or 3 they gain bows. So, by leaving my hero with a bow next to well-trained soldiers, I was able to take out most of the hyenas. It also helped that they have relatively low health compared to most of their enemies in the game, unlike the Parathon who has a ton of health. Since this bird flies, it also can't be stopped by melee combat and has to be shot by bows. But instead of having a couple dozen hit points, it has a couple hundred, which made it so annoying to kill. There were a lot of close calls, and I had to make good use of my reinforcements and spells, but managed to come out with no lives lost. Level 4 again ramps up the difficulty because along with the pain that hyenas and Parathons cause me, they're no longer just thrown in with simple enemies like gnolls. Now they're surrounded by 2-headed titans and these old grandmas who are surprisingly strong and annoying to kill. I lost my first couple of lives to hyenas before I had enough bows to take them out, but besides that I finished with a solid 2 stars. Level 5 introduces the first tier 4 tower, the Bladesinger Hall, and it turns out they don't have bows. Since I barely ever upgrade my barracks, I didn't realize this, and kinda just assumed they wouldn't lose a crucial attack to this challenge. They do deal a lot of ground damage though. They have a couple of upgrades that make them really useful in taking out etchins and grandmas, but no bows, meaning hyenas and Parathons just got to waltz right by my defense. I did have Illyria Swifter in the back to help deal with them, but that's like throwing a paper airplane at Godzilla and expecting it to do anything. I lost a couple more times because of my silly strategy, but eventually realized my mistake and fixed it. Instead of maxing out 4 Bladesinger halls, I got 3 and left 1 level 3 barracks with bows. I also built 2 more at the end to clean up the hyenas and birds that got through. This worked like a charm, and even though I might have lost a few lives, I finally beat the level. If you're enjoying the video and want to see more like this, then make sure to subscribe. Thank you. Griffin Point is the final grassy area, and it should have been easy, although I guess I have dementia because I made the exact same mistake as I did in the last level. I started out with 1 Bladesinger Hall at the end for powerful enemies and left everything else at level 3. But when I had a close call with some ends, I decided to upgrade a lot of towers, and it really screwed me over because I had no defense for Parathons. I then linked a couple more birds and got all the way down to 1 heart remaining. I went full focus mode and thankfully I made it to the boss. At that point, the Bladesingers came in very clutch and destroyed the big hyena in a flash, letting me move on to the magical forest area. The first level here is thankfully pretty easy. There are a grand total of 0 flying enemies and no dumb gimmicks like hyenas. The harassers are a little annoying as they teleport backward and shoot arrows at my soldiers, but it's nothing a little lightning can't handle. I was able to upgrade everything to a Bladesinger's Hall and wasn't punished at all, which felt amazing. The next level gives us the second tier 4 barrack, which is much better than the Bladesingers. You only get 2 soldiers, but they do a ton of damage and have the ability to spawn vines on the path and throw insanely powerful spears that deal true damage. Since they're so good, my strategy for this level was basically to spam as many green boys as I could. I made sure to also put a barrack at the top along with my hero to counter gloomies. These guys duplicate themselves and get very out of hand very quickly. Near the end, I had to move my hero and use my reinforcements for other enemies, and even though only a couple of bugs got through, they managed to spawn an army. There's also another problem that I nearly forgot about. These diamonds transport enemies from the beginning of the path all the way to the end. But thankfully when enemies entered it, I had enough money to buy a barracks to stall them while my powerful reinforcements did some damage to kill them. After the initial scare, I made sure to build 2 more forest keepers on the bottom to deal with these annoying paths. Since the forest keepers deal so much damage, even the boulder snatches, who gave me a lot of trouble even in casual runs, were pretty easy to deal with. The only reason I lost some more lives was because a couple of gloomies got past my defenses and I couldn't stop them. The Crystal Lake is up next, and it pretty much featured the same enemies, just in bigger numbers. I lost a couple of lives in the beginning, but there weren't really any interesting moments, unlike the next level, which was very scary. I had 20 lives into the final round, but unfortunately, mushrooms exist. It starts out with boom shrooms, who explode on contact with our soldiers. It's a little annoying, but manageable. Then you have munshrooms, who spawn boom shrooms upon death. And finally you have breeders, who spawn munshrooms upon death, who still spawn boom shrooms when they die. I was able to deal with them pretty well until the last round, where I started leaking lives like crazy. Through some combination of luck and good placement, I managed to survive on 2 hearts and take out the final few enemies to complete the stage with 1 star. The Unseelie Court is the final level in this mystical area, and it's one of the most difficult levels by far. On my first attempt, I forgot that gloomies were in this level and quickly got overwhelmed by their massive numbers. On my next attempt, I made sure to put my hero next to the entrance to try and spawn kill the bugs before they could duplicate. And I also decided to only buy Forest Keepers as they projectiles and are just objectively better than Blade Singers. Even though I managed to best the gloomies, there were still several other problems. These porcupines are so fast and so powerful, and I was constantly leaking lives to them. There were also so many mushrooms, and they managed to get me down to 1 heart remaining in the 13th round. I went full focus mode and somehow managed not to leak anything else before beating this easy boss and unlocking the next level. Thankfully, now that we're in the sky, there are no more mushrooms or gloomies to worry about, but let's look at the new enemies. The first level is pretty easy, but in the second level we get introduced to spider broods and cloud stalkers. The spider broods are very small and easy to kill, but when you throw about 100 of them around powerful spider warriors, then it makes it very easy to sneak past defenses and leak lives. But what finished me off was the cloud stalker. They're the gloomies of the sky, and as they fly around, they attach onto soldiers and drain their life force. If they kill the soldier, then they duplicate into 2 cloud stalkers. If they're attacking a soldier, then the soldier's immobilized, and if there are enough cloud stalkers, then I'm kinda just screwed, and there's no way to attack them besides my spell or reinforcements. After losing, the first thing I did was go back to previous Iron and Heroic challenges and beat them for some easy stars. They're supposed to be harder than the original level, but with a level 10 hero, it really can't be that bad. But back to the level. Instead of just buying a couple of Forest Keepers and maxing them out before moving on to the next tower, I tried to upgrade everything to tier 4 and then slowly spread upgrades between all the towers. This meant that all of my soldiers were strong, and there wasn't any easy prey for the cloud stalkers to duplicate on, and I made it through the level with no lives lost. The next stage, I copy and pasted the same Forest Keeper strategy and absolutely cooked the spiders. The maximum suns were so strong that occasionally I needed a lightning storm or something to thin the crowd, but generally my vines and magical spears were enough for the job, and plenty to give me 3 stars and unlock the final stage. I set up 2 main choke points here and here, but it kinda screwed me over. Throughout the level, the big spider / main boss leaves webs across the track which spawns in mountains of little spiders that speed to the end. For the most part this was fine, but occasionally they would spawn past my defenses and I have to panic place my reinforcements to just barely clutch up the round. I eventually had the bright idea to build barracks at the end and my problems were solved. The last problem to solve was the boss fight. Normally they can be pretty annoying without splash damage because there's so many other enemies that the towers won't target the boss. That's why I brought Lilith. While I might get some damage from the barracks, the most consistent damage is from the Lightning Storm and Lilith's power, Heavenly Chaos. They both deal insane amounts of damage, and since the boss seems more concerned with jumping around than getting to the end, I was able to make quick work of the boss and beat Kingdom Rush Origins with only barracks. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a great day.